Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, your soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now. Hi, I'm back with a special guest, Lyvita, and I'll ask her to introduce herself. But we're going to be talking today about a really good topic, and that is looking at how she's forged her life as it relates to competition and inspiration. Lyvita, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, how you doing, Dr. Judith? And
I'm
hello
good.
to all your listeners. I am Lyvita Brooks. I am the only child of two sweetheart lovers who met each other in college. I am a writer, I'm an author, I am a podcaster, and someday I hope to grow up to be a YouTuber.
Excellent. When you think about your life and certain experiences that you've had that have forged who you are today, where did it begin?
I have to say my mother. My mother was my inspiration. She was my competition. She was the one who introduced me to what love is. My mother, everyone loved my mother. And I'm serious, they loved her. When my mother spoke to you, you felt like you were the only one that she was speaking to. One of my cousin's parents, he's Muslim. He came to her and asked her for prayer. I mean, they just loved her.
What was it about her? What was it about her that was that kind of appealing quality? And then I want to talk a bit about the quality of mother and what that relates to in terms of the soul. So, what do you think that was?
That quality of being, that feeling of knowing that you were the only one that she was speaking to,
Mm-hmm.
that what she said was important, that she truly cared about you. But my competition was, if everybody's going to mom, well, where am I supposed to fit in? And that was a lot of the competition. But she was also like my inspiration. If I needed someone to be there for me, she was there. I never had to worry about whether I was loved, because I always, only children think that they're supposed to have all your attention 24/7. There was, a bit of competition there.
And mothers play such an important role in our lives because of that nurturing and that caring and that ability to see things in a wholly immaculate concept for their child and their ability to have everyone feel special, as you were saying. And that's what the soul wants. The soul wants to feel special. It wants to have the attention. It wants to be able to know that you, inside of you, love you. We sometimes even don't even think about the soul and it becomes invisible. But ultimately, the soul says, I'm here. See me. And what your mom did was your mom probably saw the specialness of each soul that was coming to her.
I agree. And you said something interesting, is that soul wants to be seen, to be loved. And it's interesting that you would say that, because I think that's something within us all that God has placed in us, that desire to truly be loved by Him. As people, we have that connection. And when you think someone is really special and close to you, and you don't think you can get that love from them, you're always trying to fight for it, that puts a big gap, a hole.
It ends up being, because what the things that the soul is trying to distinguish is this quality of finite versus infinite. In the finite sense, we in our outer self feel like there's not enough And since there's not enough, I want it. I want more of your love, mom. I want more of your attention, mom. I want more of your ability to support me, mom.
Yes.
But when there's a quality that's the spiritual quality of God is infinite, and that the mother energy is infinite. And that infinity is something that we can be able to breathe in and enjoy and be aware that is around us, and that nurturing and that comfort. But in the child's mind, it does look at things in a finite way. It's
Yeah.
part of the human condition.
Yeah, right. And it's also part of sharpening each other. I believe that God has a way of taking two, three people, whomever he needs in order to sharpen you for this event, or sharpen you for this part of your life, or sharpen you so you can get here in a different place. And that's what mothers do. Whether a mother is good or bad, I believe that we're each here for a reason, and we come through a particular woman for a reason. And whether that woman is good or bad to us, they are helping us to become whom we should be. Mm-hmm. And it may not be the way we wish to be developed, but there are experiences in our lives that make us stronger or weaker. It just depends on our choice.
Yeah, that's nicely said, because I think that sometimes we get into the sense that everything's luck, and it's not luck. I think there's a divine design to some of the experiences that we're having. And even though those experiences you're talking about are tough and maybe painful or maybe unexpected, but those experiences are still trying to help us to grow and learn in particular ways. And that's what the soul is trying to look at a soul level, not just at the human level. Like, what am I learning from this horrific experience that's happening to me? Because as you were saying earlier, sometimes out of the dust of the ashes of things that happen to us comes this phoenix bird. And the beauty of this phoenix bird is it transformed itself, that it wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
That's it. That is it. That is it. And while you were talking, I was thinking about this card that I used to have on my shelf. It said that every flower started out as a seed, but it had to go through some dirt to become what it is. And that is true. Yeah.
Right. We get into this notion, even as children and as teens and adults, that life should be easy all the time, 24/7. And sometimes, depending on your life path and depending on what you chose as a soul coming into embodiment, you decided certain experiences that you're going to have. And just because you forgot, the universe didn't forget. So it's throwing to you certain experiences and say, now, what are you going to do with this? How are you going to be? What are you going to learn? And so those are all the wonderful things that are happening to us if we see it through the lens of a spiritual person having a spiritual path and wanting to forge an identity that is unique and also allows God to be able to utilize.
Yeah. And that reminds me of my mother. My mother raised me to be, and I have to, okay, my interpretation, I have to say mine first. But in my head, my mother was raising me to be better than her. But in essence, she was raising me to do better than her. Mm-hmm. And so as a little girl, I was always thinking, I have to do better, I have to do better, I have to do better. But I was doing it in terms of her. She was the competition. She was the one that I was trying to be better than. And when I think about how that competition shaped me, I have always been in competition with myself, more so than other people. It was either myself or my mother. But I love competition. I just don't look at competition as I have to be better than the next person or be better than the leader. And I've always thought that was kind of interesting, because I said, oh, that girl can run faster than the other girl. I think I just want to run. It's always been interesting how I enjoy competition, but I enjoy it on my level. And it's interesting how my mother, competing against my mother, has brought me to this phase in my life where I still like competition, but it's not on a level where it's going to stress me out unless I stress me out. And also being inspired by her to want to take risk. So all of that kind of the competition, taking risks, all of that folds into how I was raised. What she taught, just being better than her, which was really doing better than her. Because she was so excited when I would graduate from college. And then I got my master's degree. She was just so, but when I did things like I wrote my first book, it really wasn't okay. I self-published when I was like 12. I self-published a book, stapled my line papers together. Okay, that got I was excited about that. So I showed her and she's, oh, Lyvita, that's nice. That's it? I thought, what I'm saying? I just wrote a book, Mom. So, but when I got that degree, it was like, wow. For high school, I went to Spain. I mean, it was exciting, but I never picked up until later in life what was truly important to her. I was competing against her, but I was competing against the wrong thing. And it's interesting, So I've learned through the years that you got to start paying attention to, because with that only child mentality, you think one way and it should go that way. But in essence, there's a whole lot of other things that happen around it. And if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to miss out. So I had to learn the hard way. That's that iron sharpening iron. I got to pay attention to the things that are around me because they're just as important.
Yeah, and it sounds like, but you through, I think through track and field, when you were talking about earlier, running track and field and competition, track and field, and realizing what the other competitors are doing around you and how you want to run your own race, as they say, is important to you. And then I also heard this little piece of, I really came to the awareness that my mom loved me for many things. But when I did achieve, certain things and hit those milestones that she felt was really important, such as graduating from college and the master's degree, she was so elated by that. And there's also milestones for our soul. There are also milestones for our soul. And when we reach those milestones, and each are unique for each person. And that's why we do have to sharpen ourselves to find out what our soul is needing and what it nourishes our soul, which may be different from another person's soul. And so that we realize that the competition is not externally, the competition is internally for us to get better and better and better. And our soul starts to get elated and feeling lighter and lighter and more attuned to that higher source, which I call the I am presence, the creator, the Christ, that allows us to know that we have a better connection now because we've been willing to forge our sense of who we are and not just be a bump on the log.
Right.
That we're intentional, we're purposeful, in terms of our way of being, and knowing that we're not going to always do it right, we're not going to say it right, but we're willing to get back on the horse and continue to ride and continue to be the best person that we can be, because it not only helps the outer aspects of who we are in terms of, the career that we go into, but it helps the inner aspects and anchor us in something greater than ourselves, which is our higher presence, the creator, the God, and that is really powerful, from the external to the internal, from the internal to the external, of how we're showing up and being in life.
Yeah. It's important. Being intentional is so important, because then it informs you that what you're doing is important to you, is vital to you. It's going to help you become even better than what you imagined. You have to put intention in your life. You have to set goals that are going to help you to grow. but you set them with an intention. There's a reason why you're doing this.
Yes, yes, exactly. And what came to my mind when you were saying that is that through our forging of intention, we actually have a focalization of what we want to grow and what we want to go inside ourselves, and and how we want to show. We want to grow, for example, being kinder in our interactions with individuals, or we want to be less angry or frustrated by situations that happen. We're the ones that have to gain mastery over those things, and that's what the soul wants, is mastery over our emotions, our thoughts, and even our past experiences. And we want to be able to garner greater awareness so that we're using those experiences as stepping stones to higher awareness of being, so that we have a greater flow of God's presence with us and a greater attunement to what God is wanting us to do each and every day.
Yeah, you're right.
So then, as you're talking about, some of these wonderful experiences that your mom has kind of created for you or known about you, it's this issue about sometimes our mothers know more than we do know and what's best for us. And sometimes we say, no, 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 I think I need to go here. And that's why we have free will to do that and experience that. But I remember you were saying that, when we were talking offline, that your mom automatically told you when you asked her about elementary, what should you do for your career? And she said, move into elementary school education. Tell us
Yes.
more.
Isn't that interesting? I went to the one that I was competing against, but also my inspiration, and said, well, Mom, what should I major in? And without a pause or anything, elementary education. So I did. And it was the best thing that I could have ever done. Every time I think about how she just came up with that and how my life has just progressed, I ended up retiring as a principal. You know what I'm saying? Mothers, when they are paying attention to you and you're paying attention to them, they have a way of seeing unique things about you that you don't see. Because I could have been she was a physical education teacher. I could have been a physical education teacher. Seriously, that's too much work. Getting the gym stuff out of the closet, putting all that stuff in the air, making sure nobody gets hurt, somebody get hit with a basketball. All I had to do was worry about somebody having a pencil and it might fall on, you know what I'm saying? So it was the best thing. And I always enjoyed children. I've always enjoyed hanging out with children and teaching them, being a part of their lives. So it was perfect.
Were there certain lessons you learned through your experiences as a teacher and principal? Yeah,
Yeah.
that has kind of integrated into who you are today?
Oh yeah. I had to I ended up being a middle school principal, but my greatest joy was being a middle school assistant principal. And so what I learned is that everybody has a good day and a bad day. Everybody has a day where they want to be a baby or they want to be a grown up. You had to be aware of which personality you were talking to during that conversation, because they could switch up. I learned to be flexible. I really had to learn that sometimes our children, they don't know which direction they want to go. And some do, but they just need that little push. But when you ask them questions, just keep asking them questions and encouraging them to answer it, they will soon realize. That's one of the things that I learned, that asking them questions to push them to think about what it is that they really want. And are you doing this because your friends are saying it, or is it because this is really what you want? And then giving them those tools too. If it's their friends and they don't want to be rejected, then kind of give them tools on how to handle that. But that's one of the things I learned. You just got to keep encouraging them.
You're saying something that is really vital. just as for children, be it elementary, grade school, young, older, we have to give words of encouragement and asking them questions. But do we ever think about questioning, giving questions to our soul and what our soul wants and what our soul needs? And we don't even think about that. We're doing the same way that you, in a nice and loving way, to be more flexible and more asking and be more inquiring. Why can't we do that with our soul and ask ourselves when we wake up in the morning? So, what do we want to do today? How do you want to be? What are we going to be working on now? You know, and your soul will start to respond to you to say, I think we need to do this. And I think we didn't do too good yesterday. Can we do better today? This internal dialogue, this conversation that we can have with our soul can be wonderful. It's as if you're awakening a new dimension of yourself that we are so used to living externally in our lives and externally in what people want and what people want to do. And we want to go to the basketball court, or we want to go, to work or whatever it may be. But you know what? That has its place, but the soul has its place too. And how do we elevate the soul and our awareness about the soul?
And I think that comes through self-talk. You got to figure out, because we each have some way of talking to ourselves, those thoughts that we have. We have to, it's when you begin, I'm gonna just use TV as an example. If 24/7 you're watching television, that means that you're hearing other people speak into you. So your soul is grasping on certain things. But let's say that you spend 40 minutes just listening to music that is calming, music that is encouraging. Your soul start grabbing onto that. So whatever you are listening to, whatever you're saying to yourself, it's going to filter down into that soul, because the more you hear something, the more it becomes a part of you. And I keep telling people, the best propaganda I have heard in my life came through the pandemic. Every day we were hearing about somebody dying. We were grasping this. It was like it was developing fear within us. And everybody wasn't dying. But to us, because it was constant, everybody was dying. We were dying. Oh my goodness, I can't. All of this, all because of what was being fed to us. So we were talking to ourselves. And as we were talking, it was just getting deeper, deeper, deeper. And to get out of that, we have to change our self-talk. And as we change our self-talk, that consists of asking questions that you got to face. Why are you acting like this every time this person says, I don't want you to do that? Why are you constantly getting tense when this person come around you? Or why are you so excited when another person come around you? These are the types of things you have to consider and push ourselves to answer.
I totally agree with what you're saying, because what we put our attention to is what our experience will be more of, which I've mentioned in some other episodes in the past. So our attention, in terms of our thoughts or in terms of our reactions and feelings, or what you're saying, what we feed to ourselves through TV or streaming or whatever other social media that we are involved in, that infills us. And actually, and it feels, and depending on that fear, like you're talking about with the pandemic, that fear suppresses the soul. It doesn't lighten the soul. It creates static for the soul. So you can't necessarily hear. And what you do hear then is the human fear and uncertainty and doubt. But therefore, we're not toggled to or tied into the Christ, the God self, the creator that can know all things, can support us, can help us, to guide us to do the right thing when we need to do. But we have all the static that creates this barrier, for us not to hear those types of things that is induced by society and societies and the media. And the media has an agenda. And we have to say, do I want to play to that agenda? Or I do not want to play to that agenda? What about God's agenda? And how do
Right.
I keep focused on that, as my source and the wisdom by which I need to operate by?
This is so true. Yes. All right. That also brings up in my mind the importance of not quitting. Just because things seem hard or you don't want to answer a really tough question, you can't quit. Stop, take a couple breaths, and then tackle it. Because when you quit, you never know what could have happened. But when you push forward, even if you're doing it scared or you feel a little anxious, just take a couple breaths, chill out, relax, and then go ahead and try it. Now, I'm not talking about bungee jumping. I'm not talking about jumping out of heaven. I'm talking about life things that we are confronted with. And I know that everybody's not a risk taker. At this point in time, we are where we are in this world. It's going to take some people taking risk and not giving up on things that they're afraid of, are holding them back from doing the things that they should be doing.
Yes, as if you have within yourself an urge, and that's the soul, the urge of knowing that you need to do something or say something at the particular time because of you're risk averse, or you're feeling you want to make a good impression, or you want to people please. Then you end up not saying it, but then it ends up being a disservice to your soul and also to the situation in which you may have gained growth and experiences around. And people may have been in agreement with what you had to say, even though it felt scary and nervous and you're uncertain about. And that's why you always check in too with your soul. Is this something I need to say at this point in time? And your soul may urge you to say, you need to say this. And so you inch out there and you say it, what you need to say, and knowing that I'm not going to expect for people to love it, like it, enjoy it, but knowing I'm just giving a different perspective in the situation, because that's the other piece of things. Sometimes we want to say things so people will think it's great and give us applause, for what we're saying. And that's the ego persona. That's what I call the ego persona. And that's the ego always wants praise, always wants to feel like it's doing it right, said it right, and it actually gets us further away from living in the core of who we are and moves us into living in the periphery of who we are. And when we can live in anchor in the core of who we are, then we know that that voice or that inner prompting within us is sharing with us what we need to say, when we need to say it, and even sometimes how we need to say it.
Yes, that's important. How we need to say it, because sometimes we can say the right thing and it come out the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And with your saying, another word that came to my mind, where you were talking about pushing forward and moving forward in life, was persistence. Needing, sometimes just because things don't work out one time, like and Edison, he was very persistent in order to invent. So what happens that, we don't continue to forge that persistence and looking and reevaluating and making a change or shift and continue to move forward as you're making mention of, because that's what the soul wants. The soul doesn't want you to poop out, give out, and say, I'm out. It wants you to stay in the game, wants you to continue to kind of run the race, and do it at your pace in order to learn to be and carve out the qualities that are unique to you that allows you to be your best self.
I remember I was it was a talented and gifted coordinator, and my responsibility was to set up the schedule for the school. And for the first time in my life, I had the opportunity to learn about block scheduling. Now, I'm very good with details. If you give me the vision, I can give you the details. But for some reason, I had gotten to a point where I couldn't go any further. It was as if I figured out how to block schedule, but things weren't connecting and I couldn't understand what. And I remember the principal coming and talking to me, and he said it's just one word he said. I don't remember anything else. all I remember is that he said, can't. And for me, that word said, what? Can't? What you mean I can't? And because I didn't let that one word stop me, I kept being persistent. I kept going. I kept trying to figure out what is the problem. Bam, it was solved. It was as if that word can't unlock the thing that was holding me back, which was, this is so new to you. You're in a space that you aren't supposed to be in. And when I thought about it, it's like, that's not true. I'm an organizer. I organize stuff. Going back to that self-talk. So persistence is something that if we don't keep doing things like taking the risk, it will hold you back. And we don't want to get to a point where we're being held back from doing what we have been designed to do. This world is in a place where we need everybody to find out who they are and move forward. We have so much going on until we need everybody on deck. We really do. I know this is about mastering our journeys, but we really do need to do that. Because if we don't know that our lives are a journey, that we have a mission here on earth, then we miss the whole point and the whole enjoyment of why we are here. We are seriously here for a reason. And it's not to be crazy. It's not to go and kill somebody. No, we are here to help others do whatever it is they have to do. And that in turn is us finding out whom we are. When you help others, you begin to realize, oh my goodness, I can do such and such and such and such. Here I am trying to make a schedule for a school. I'm helping others. It's like, wow. So I really can do a master schedule for a whole elementary school. That is awesome, because I learned that in my life as an educator. That block scheduling just got bigger and bigger. I'm doing a middle school now. It's like schedules don't even, it's old hat. So that is persistent. Just keep going and keep going. Failure may come in the way, but you got to keep going. Like you said, Thomas Edison. Yeah.
That's really nicely said, because when we use persistence and see it as an opportunity and not as a barrier, to just we couldn't do it the first time or the second time or the third time, where we keep on finding new ways of thinking or doing or being, then that's what the soul wants. The soul says, you've got a hurdle here. Don't, hurdle it. Figure out how to hurdle it, because we get stuck if you don't. We don't forge, better understanding, of who and what we are. And also, I do believe we're here by divine design. Each person has a special mission. And sometimes just because we're not aware of that mission, well, I don't think I have anything. No, if you're born on planet Earth, you do have a mission, and you have to take some settling time, some quiet time, still time. Which is kind of that stillness, and what I call is being still and light and love, and being able to be attuned to God and ask the question, as you said earlier, what am I here for? What is my purpose? Help me to see. Bring people to me to give me an understanding. Help me to read things that will allow me to have that better awareness about what I'm about and how I may glorify you in the earth. Because when we can do that, we have the opportunity to meet many different things in life, because God will give us more things to do and more things to do and more people to touch through service, as you're talking about, or through our willingness to surrender, to know that there's something greater than ourselves. Sometimes we do have to sacrifice. Sometimes it's like, for example, when you got your master's degree, well, you can go and party all night. You had to also, keep focus on getting that master's degree. And then the other thing that you talked about was the quality of service also is the quality of selflessness. We have to be selfless and not selfish. And so God wants us to have the understanding of surrender, selflessness, service, and then also the quality of surrendering to the greater good, the greater will of God in our life. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. Uh, Listen, if when I think of the first thing that comes to mind for selfishness is that is me, mine, and it's mine. But selfishness has another piece to it. We think it's me, mine, but it's me, mine in the sense of I have a responsibility to whatever that is. It's not me, mine for me to hoard, hold on to, and never let go. But it's me, mine, in that I am to help it, support it, contribute to it, be a part of it, encourage it. And these are some of the things that I did learn through my mother, that I like to hold on to stuff. She didn't. I mean, her arms were always out. But I learned that there's a difference. There's a difference between that selfishness that I was thinking and the selfishness of taking care of what is around you, making sure it's protected, being selfish about taking care of yourself. These are important things because if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to wear down. You can't help anybody. When I think about how God has put us together as beings, we're made in his image. He's a being, and he's made us the man and the female. He has taken pieces of himself and has put us together for a purpose to take care of this whole earth. Yes, that is a part of, it's not mine, it's ours. We should be selfish as ours and not a mine.
When you're saying that, it reminds me of when talking about selfishness, is enlightened self-interest. Is enlightened self-interest for us to be able to move from this kind of possessiveness to, like you're saying, to the glory and the bigness of the community and the nations and the earth. Well, we can protect ourselves because that's enlightened self-interest. Because if a person is going to mug you, well, you need to protect yourself so that will not happen. But so there are different levels of this issue around selfishness. But what we're really trying to move towards is enlightened self-interest. What's going to help me to continue to evolve, that also helps others to continue to evolve on their path, and whatever that path may be spiritually for them.
Yeah.
As we're talking about this, is there any thoughts and feelings or reactions to our pearls of wisdom that you want to leave with the seeker that could be of help for them as they're moving forward, as you've been forging your life, as we've been talking about the competition and inspiration that your mom has given to you?
I think that our life experiences are designed to help us. They're designed to help us reach our next step, our next stage in life, so that we can become whom we're designed to be. We're each designed for a specific reason, specific purpose. And when we find that, go for it. Just go for it. Don't let anything like hold you back. Take the risk. Step out. I know we always ask ourselves, well, why are all these things happening to us? Don't quit.
Well, that brings up that one of the things I really want you to come back and talk about is why do these things happen to us? And our next segment that I'll be doing with Lyvita. But something that she said, which is so important to seekers to know, is keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Don't get stuck. And know that all experiences are helping us and guiding us in our soul, with our soul and mind. To be, if we keep our soul in mind, to experience a greater fullness and happiness in our life, even in the midst of rainstorms or thunderstorms or hail or sleet. There's things that we can be able to put up the umbrella, which is God's umbrella, and help us walk through those particular types of situations. I hear about your mom being such an inspiration and also now looking at her from a different lens than that competition issue that is forced to who you are. And I would say to the seekers, what are those experiences that forced you to be who you are in your life? Let us know. I want to say thank you, Lyvita, for this episode. And for our seekers, thank you for listening in, and bye for now. Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.